Hey, everybody. I am Stephen Boster, your co host here, along with Mr. Dr. Matthew Tanner. Matt, say hey to everybody.
How's everybody doing on this Friday?
Right? God,
We're
can you
back
believe it's
again.
already,
The
it's
third
week,
one already.
it's week three.
How
Yes.
did this
So,
happen?
Arrow is so excited that you're joining us. This is the week 3 of our building resilience in ministry, and so we're pretty excited about having this time with you guys, specifically about strategies for self-care and avoiding burnout. So you can find the other videos on our LinkedIn pages, our Facebook pages, or YouTube pages.
We'll find
Um, as well. So it's pretty exciting. What we did week 1, we talked about the crisis that pastors are facing, the burnout epidemic. And then last week, we talked about permissions and being able to give yourself permission to be human as a pastor. Today, we're talking about beyond the Sunday face. In other words, how to embrace emotional authenticity. This is the concept of vulnerability that your people, your congregates, your parishioners are really going to appreciate. And then next week is, I'm pretty excited about next week even, is because it's about how pastors we can manage energy. And so how can we fill our tank? Because many of us have been running on empty. So that is the game plan.
Extra coffee doesn't do that?
No, extra coffee does not do that.
Okay.
that may be a quick fix, but not long term for burnout.
All right. We're going for long-term fixes here, not just survival. I got it.
That's true. It's a little bit of both, but hey. Oh gosh. Well, real quick, everyone, just want to go through here at Servants by Design. What we do is we create communications, personality specific resources to help you live a healthier, more connected, spirit-filled life with yourself, with God, and with others. Our profiles really help you understand God's unique design for who you are, and our leadership profiles help you learn how to connect with others at the speed of conversation. Matt, I'll let you talk about wounded leadership.
Yeah, wounded leadership is, as you can see on the screen, helping those who have been wounded find healing. There's so much that we do. We work with pastors, we work with church leaders, we work with anybody who has been through any kind of wounding, and there's counseling services that we offer, especially for pastors. There's the book called The Wounded Pastor, and we're just trying to help those who have been hurt somewhere in their life find peace, find healing, and become better leaders and better people. So check us out at woundedleadership.com.
Cool. And then we also have Simplify Church is helping support us in this endeavor. Simplify Church helps make managing church finances simple. In other words, they provide bookkeeping and financial support for small and growing churches. And the goal for Simplify Church is to help take on some of that administrative work so you can spend more time doing ministry. Now, who I am. Real quick, everybody, if this is your first time joining us and you haven't seen the other 2 episodes, I am Stephen Boster. I'm the managing owner of Servants by Design, which falls under Communicate for Change, LLC. It's our communication company where we teach all types of communication skills, but specifically the process communication model. And Servants by Design is the exclusive spiritual application of the process communication model. I have an MDiv from Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. I have an MBA from Fontbonne University. I have served as lady, full-time bivocational church planner. I've done all kinds of things within ministry for the last 30 years. I've helped serve as a coach, a trainer, and a consultant in a variety of different ways through churches, but also primarily through communication, connections, and consulting. I'm also the operations manager for Simplify Church and helping them do some really cool growth that they've been experiencing and stuff, or I should say we, because I hope that too. All right, Matt, you, my friend.
Yeah, there it is. I'm the owner and founder of Wounded Leadership Ministries. I have a doctorate of ministry and leadership development, a master's of theology, and a master's of divinity from Midwestern Theological Seminary. I have been a full-time bivocational pastor. I have been a director of missions. I have been a transitional interim pastor. along with many other things. As you can see, I'm coach, counselor, trainer, consultant, trained mediator in conflict coaching, and the author of The Wounded Pastor, a strategy for healing for those who have been unjustifiably terminated and forced to resign their ministries. I'm also professor. I teach a few courses at the local college. And when I have some time, I like to ride a bike a long distance. So
There you go.
that's me. That's the Dr. Matt.
Sweet. Well, everybody, why are we doing this? Well, we're doing these 4 sessions as a prelude, a prequel, as it were, to our Pastor's Resiliency webinar that we're going to be doing in April. This is a paid event. That the price is only $100 for this event. And it's 4 nights. It's April 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th from 6 to 9. You will get your own communication personality profile tailored specifically for you that will have a personal action plan, a professional action plan, and even a spiritual renovation plan for you. You will also get a copy of Dr. Tanner's book, Wounded.
The Wounded Pastor.
I almost went to Wounded Leadership. Did you catch the L? Wait a minute.
Yeah, I was ready for it.
That's so funny. So we're excited about it. But you can go to woundedleadership.com/events. There's also should be a link in the description below for you as well, where you can go there and sign up. Right now, the price is only $100, and I guarantee you get your money's worth and beyond. We are really trying to get this information out to pastors. We've been there, done that, been run over by the church bus backwards and forwards. And so we really want to be there to help you through this journey. And so what's really cool is each night at 8 o'clock from 8 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, we actually have roundtable discussions. We have Steve Warmer from Hurt from Hope Ministries, Matt Davis from Pastoral Transitions, and we'll even have the head CEO, Chief Simplifier of Simplify Church, Joshua Henry, who will be joining us to ask questions. And we're pretty excited about all the different areas of what we're helping pastors with in their service. Now,
and also, let me throw this in here real quick. If you know a pastor or a church leader that really needs this, maybe they've recently gone through a hurt and they're just saying, you know what, $100 is just too much. We have 6 scholarships available that will make that half price for somebody. All you have to do is email the woundedpastor@gmail.com and we'll get you a code for that. So, guys, if you know somebody that really could benefit from this, let them know. Email, sign up. We're going to get you hooked up there.
Yeah. Even at the $50, you're getting some incredible resources. I know some pastors have book funds, some don't, but we've have some generous donors that have saying, "Hey, I will help meet that half for pastors." So yes, very much so. So today, as we talk about emotional authenticity, there's a couple of things I have to do. All PCM, all process communication model content, is the intellectual property of Kaler Communications International and Servants by Design. We make no claim of ownership in any such intellectual property as Servants by Design. We actually are allowed to use this at the wonderful grace of Kaler Communications International. We are the exclusive spiritual application of PCM. Now, some of the content in this webinar is copyrighted by Communicate for Change, doing business Servants by Design, with portions from Next Element Consulting, and that's what some of that's going to be what we're going to be talking about today. Some of that information of doing a survey with individuals of how certain personalities deal with stress and burnout, and we're going to give a great example and walk through that. So that's the IP notice that I have to do with these. So I want to talk about the pandemic challenges. Now you're like saying, well, Stephen, that's a couple of years ago. Yes, you are correct. But we are still feeling the effects of that and the changes that have occurred because of the pandemic, how they relate to the workplace. And what Dr. Tanner's going to help me with is go through, this is what it's been in the professional workplace, but what about for pastors in the ministerial workplace? And so we're going to talk specifically about different types that are within us, but ones that are more focused than others. So in other words, there are some people who live and breathe, who thrive on being compassionate and sensitive and warm. They're individuals. Now, with that being said, how did these people end up dealing with the pandemic? Well, many of them found themselves caring for family, like grandparents taking care of grandkids, parents taking care of their own kids at home, like they can't go out, even neighbors taking care of people who are nearby just because of just the situation of what the pandemic caused. But one of the things that happened for a lot of people who are very compassionate individuals is they started experiencing empathy fatigue. Now, I don't know about pastors, but I know a lot of pastors at this time were dealing with that fatigue of, I know where you've been, and really some being leery of, can I make house calls or not? Pastors who were very compassionate and they would try to check on people, and some being not feeling they could, like the individuals didn't want to have the pastor come over, but they had to say hi through the window at least, kind of thing. And just that empathy really created a lot of fatigue for
Yeah.
pastors. They realized a lot of things were keeping up with how people were doing, not just what they were doing. In other words, a lot of times in a work environment, if you have a team and you're leading a team, you're usually about, hey, what are they doing? What's going on? But then they realized how much more so, because of the pandemic, they were really about how people were doing. Now, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about a lot of pastors were struggling, and 12% had considered suicide that year. And so while that amount has gone down a little bit, not as much as we'd like to see. So that's part of the reason why we want to keep doing this. A lot of pastors ended up feeling lonely. I mean, some people say leadership is lonely. We can have that discussion. But in this case, those who are compassionate individuals, people who like being around people, were starting to feel lonely because they didn't have the interactions with others. They didn't have the refueling of checking on people. And so they had to ask the question, how is I getting my people fix? These individuals really care about people. They're great in team environments, checking in on how everyone's doing. But then they begin to realize that their boundaries, specifically, they were struggling with certain aspects of their boundaries because as I was so busy taking care of others, my bucket was getting emptier and emptier. And I don't know about you as a pastor, but were you feeling that as well, that you were just getting more empty and empty? And how were you taking care of yourself? And this is about self-care. There were those here. I'm going to have to go to a different look here for the last one. But the last one is, how has your home nest changed? In other words, a lot of people had family move in. It wasn't the issue of people moving out. It was people moving in. And so that ended up being, I know there are a lot of pastors out there who actually opened up their homes for people who were struggling during that time. And so their home nest changed. And so that created a whole different dynamic. You know how your home is your castle and you can retreat? They felt like they couldn't retreat and stuff. Matt, am I missing anything else about just pastors who are those compassionate individuals?
Yeah, and usually the pastors who are the compassionate, the shepherding pastors are all the time worried about how everybody else is feeling, and they never give themselves permission to look inward and go, how am I doing? And I mean, this is spot on. What the pandemic did is it forced us to be alone, and then we kind of realized, well, we can take care of ourselves, and now we're trying to figure out what that new normal is now that we get back out. We don't want to lose some of that. So I mean, there's everything about our time and the way that we shepherd people has changed over this last several years.
Yep. So I'm going to keep continuing about these different traits that are within all of us, but some stronger than others. And those are the strongest in different areas of how questions they were asking, how are they dealing with it? And then we're going to move into all this is going to lead into about what's the authentic emotion that you have to embrace when dealing with these specific ones as pastors. For example, moving on, those who view the world, who are very logical, organized, responsible individuals, one of the things that happened is they were feeling this great responsibility Now, there are pastors who feel responsible, but these are ones who are pretty organized and they were feeling all kinds of responsibility to check in on everybody. I've got to have a plan to how to deal with the pandemic. Oh my goodness, we're going to have to figure out a way to go online to keep communication with people. What does that mean? We look back and realize this was a huge turning point and we're still feeling the effects of it. The biggest thing was a lot of things that we just didn't know. We didn't know what was going to happen. A huge amount of uncertainty, and it made it hard for these individuals to plan ahead. They love to have plans. That organization, I know what's coming ahead, and that caused some stress. The structures of how they dealt with things, the organization, the predictability, you just couldn't do it anymore. And that created a sense of, gosh, what do I do? How do I handle it? Then routines and habits changed. Everybody's routine changed. Everybody's habit changed. It's almost like we had to create entirely new systems for ourselves just to stay above, keep our head above water. Then how many of us were working from home and we have all these distractions at home that we had to begin to work with? It was hard to be focused and logic or really organized in my plans because I was getting distracted here. I got animals here. Probably my monitor will go out here in a little bit because I got 2 dogs around me, kind of thing. How do we handle these? And what happens is we start feeling a loss of control. Like for those who are very organized individuals, I'm responsible. I have to control this. I got to make sure it all works out. And they lose that. We lost the sense of time. Oh, I got "and" there twice. You catch that? Sorry about that. I lost control of my grammar
ability. Yeah,
that is correct.
Yeah.
And so the question became, have you developed new routines and a new structure? And for pastors, it's, hey, our structure was Sunday mornings were like this, XYZ. We've got Sunday school or church training, and then we move right into our worship time together. And then after that, maybe we had a fellowship time.
Well, I wonder how many pastors, because I saw that I'm trying to think of the study that I looked at, but anyway, what congregations look like now based on what they were before are totally different. So you had all these ministries or these leadership positions, all these structures put into place. The pandemic happened and then everything was turned on its head and you were in survival mode and each week you were trying to build a new structure because everything changed. And then you come back and the logical, responsible, organized pastors are wanting to go, okay, now we can go back to those structures that we developed and we found comfort in. But your people weren't the same. So how many churches did not come back? The attendance is way low. So you might be able to go back into your structures, but your people aren't there. And so you're trying to figure out who's leading what. And I think pastors, where stress is coming in, is a lot of them are still trying to figure out the new normal and still trying to figure out the new structures and the new routines, because now we can't do what we used to do.
Yep. Well, let's look at those who view the world through spontaneity, being creative, those who are very playful. Well, for them, I'm just going to put them all on the screen so we can chit chat about them. A lot of them are, woo, this is great. Woohoo, change. Right? I don't have to go to that stinking cubicle no more. I can do what I want when I want.
Pastors didn't have to go to the deacons meetings, and business meetings were put on hold, and because we just can't get together, so I can just do what I want. And so much, I can go to the meetings with the button-up shirt and the suit coat and the gym shorts.
Right. I can wear my PJ pants. Right. Yeah. So a lot of these individuals are like, restriction and rules suck, but man, I am killing it on TikTok right now. Just having fun.
Snapchat record of 145 days.
Yep. And what's interesting is that, it's some of that just maybe that emerging creativity, because I love being creative and that's, why they're doing that. But what ended up happening though, which is really interesting, is they started getting bored. And so virtual world became a blessing and a curse. And so it had to ask the question, have you stayed creative and active? Now,
Yeah.
there are pastors out there that are very creative pastors, who their worship services are very creative, or maybe you are the worship pastor and you view your position as trying to be very creative, but you struggled because, well, great. Now I can't get the music to sound right online. I can't really, all it is sitting in front of a TV, and all it is just making sure the tech is working right. Ooh, maybe I can try some lower thirds, some new
Yeah.
lower thirds, but come on,
Everybody had to become live stream experts really fast, and it was so difficult to preach to the screen. And you remember all those memes and the pictures where people were printing off pictures of their church members and putting them on the pews so they could like picture themselves preaching to people, and
Right?
it just wasn't the same.
It was not the same at all. So, and there were those who had that feeling. And pastors, I don't know if this was you, but you couldn't win for losing.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it was just, oh, this is a bummer kind of a thing. And
Well,
so,
especially for the creative people, it's always tough because anytime you put something out that's spontaneous, or this creative juice is flowing,
mhm,
you're always going to get the people that don't like it, and then you put all the restrictions that come into play, and
mhm.
you're trying to be creative to keep people engaged in this separation, and it was just an uphill battle.
It was. So we're going to talk about the emotion that follows with this, but we're trying to give you the big picture, everybody. So we're going to go to the next one real quick. And this one really is about people who are very conscientious. They're very dedicated. They're very observant. These are individuals who are very much about belief, about opinions, about values. And so what happened is when all of this happened, when the pandemic happened, it was like, hey, step it up. They stepped up commitment. They rose to the occasion. Says, we're going to do best to find a way with our customers. This was for the professionals that responded to the survey. We were going to find a way to do it. We were going to rise, bring value to our organization, and then bring purpose. But what happened was they said to themselves, I can survive being lonely if I have purpose, that commitment, stepping up for the commitment and rising to the value. But what ended up happening, that adapting to cope meant possibly losing or misplacing their passion. In other words, their purpose.
These are the
So,
pastors that when the crisis was over, they felt lost. They didn't. I mean, they didn't have that driving them, and it just felt empty going back to the status quo.
right.
And
Yeah.
they kind of were floundering here a little bit.
Well,
And
it was, I
gonna
had
say,
this vision. I had this vision of where we were headed as a
yeah.
church, and it just went out the window
And now church
overnight.
works differently, and now I've got to remake my whole vision or rediscover the whole vision. And now what do I do? And I want to say here for the pastors that as you're going through, you're like, what does this have to do with where we're going? It's all going to make sense. But here's the thing. I guarantee you, as you're listening to these different types of people, there's one of them that kind of stung a little bit as you're listening to it. And you're sitting there going, yeah, that was me.
Yeah. Right. And we're going to help you with that authentic emotion. And you may already know what that emotion is, but this way you're getting the big picture of the emotions.
Absolutely.
But you're right. They did have to deal with after the pandemic. It's like, okay, what's my new meaning and new purpose? Now, some found great commitment and were like, yeah, let's do this. This is where we're headed. They found new vision. They found new purpose with that. All right, let's go to the next one real quick. These are individuals who are very calm, folks, very reflective. They don't talk a whole lot. Sometimes when you talk to them, they look up and to the left. I do know a couple of pastors this way. Very great reflection off passages and stuff. Very imaginative. And so for a lot of them, they were like, well, I could make do with less. I could focus on less. Being less busy is just fine. I've got time to reflect and imagine. But what happened was that lack of structure for them became a blessing and a curse. And so with that, the biggest thing that occurred was that being alone ended up becoming almost more isolation from everyone. And as pastors, we have a great aspect of, we have a flock that God has given us to be responsible for. And then I was starting to feel a little bit lonely. again. But this is a different kind of lonely. This is almost an isolated lonely. People who are imaginative, reflective, calm have no problems being by themselves,
Mhm.
but it's isolation from others was the big deal. It's different than solitude, I think, is the biggest thing I want to bring out. Solitude has structure. When you go off to spend solitude with God, you have a certain structure. Each pastor has a certain structure of what they do with that. But what happens is isolation was then become distance. And I do know some pastors that felt during that time frame distant from God for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Then the next one I want to talk about, this is the last one of the 6 that we're talking about, are those who are very adaptable, charming, very persuasive, very charismatic individuals. And for them, it was a great challenge. Oh, bring it on. I got this. Crisis, man, it brings out the best, man. I can just make things happen right on the fly. It gives me, let's get everybody together. Let's rally around the cause. We can do this for the Lord. And they are best when they are in survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens, though, is they begin to think, oh, I can't get things moving as fast as I want. I can't just make things happen because how am I able to connect with everybody on a regular basis anymore? How can I connect with people? It became a bigger challenge. Also, for these kinds of pastors, they can they can head down certain rabbit trails. Like, oh, we should do this. Oh, we could use this streaming service, or maybe we could use this streaming service. Kind of a thing. And it was. And sometimes it was just going back on different things, different. What's the word I'm trying to say? They'll continue on pursuing different areas that they need to refocus on. Sometimes in distress, they'll just start fires just to watch them burn, just because they need that incidence. They need that excitement.
Yeah.
And so the question then for them, there's 2 questions here: is how are you staying challenged through the pandemic, even though you can't things moving faster? Maybe that's a challenge in yourself. Or what new opportunities are you seeing or creating? Now, I will say there were some pastors who really used the pandemic to revision or re-engineer how church was done, and we got to see that in different ways. All right. Now, with that, everybody, so those are the 6 frameworks that I kind of wanted to get in your mind, that each one of us, you meet one of those. Now, all types are within us, so you may see a couple of those in yourselves, but some of us have some that are much, much more stronger than others.
Mm-hmm.
And so the big thing I want to talk about today, and this is where we're leading into, is to give you practical application on emotional authenticity. In other words, what is it that I need to personally embrace? What emotion am I struggling with that I need to embrace? And I need to know that it's okay. Because when I embrace it, it shows authenticity, transparency to the people that I lead. Now, let's talk about stress for a minute. Stress is emotional because it threatens how we want to see ourselves. So these emotions, when we grasp them, when we come to understand these emotions that we run into, we are really coming to grips with who we are. It's how God's designed us. And when we accept these emotions, having that purpose, understanding the purpose behind these emotions, it helps us move forward and show vulnerability and be authentic to our people. And they see it and they appreciate it.
And that's where we bought into the lie, especially for pastors, is we've taught ourselves that we cannot show emotion. We cannot be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've all heard the mantra of, pastors cannot have any friends in church. And even around other pastors, we kind of have this quasi false emotional authenticity. But yet we end up comparing ourselves and comparing our ministries, and we don't want to be weak in front of a brother. We've lost this idea of being emotional, and we've taught ourselves, especially with the stress emotions, everything within you teaches you to run from that emotion. But we're talking about is an about face here, that if you will turn and face the giant, you will realize it's not that big of a giant, and it actually will teach you what positive things you need to do in order to heal from it. The whole time you're running from it, all you're going to do is get tired. So turn around and face it, embrace it, and allow it to work some authentic, really good things, because we're going to talk about some
Mm-hmm.
things you can do, then you have freedom, and it's not slowing you down and it's not weighing you down. So this is what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about, is turning and facing that emotional giant. Let me be clear, pastors, people, anybody that deals with stress, the giant is not as, it's never as big as you think it is.
Right. When you accept it, see, that's what leads to burnout. We're not accepting, we've got that fatigue that happens because we're not facing that emotion authentically. So
Yeah, we're
well
covering
stated.
it up or we're running from it.
Well stated. Okay. So we're going to talk about 6 modus operandi, method of operations, kind of that get threatened during stress. So I'm just going to throw them all out on the table here, or all on the screen. I'm going to talk about each one. We're going to ask which one describes you. There are those out there that are very much the protector. I have a responsibility. I have a duty to protect my flock. I have the responsibility and I have the duty to really take care of others, to protect them from, for some pastors, I want to make sure that they don't get false doctrine. For others, I want to make sure I'm protecting them from the dangers of this world, kind of a thing. And so that's where they're at. There are those who are planners. That's the category I fall in, everybody. Yeah. I am very much organized. I try to make sure I have my plans. I've got my own personal productivity stuff that I try to do, always working on, but I plan. And then there are those who are caregivers, that natural, compassionate individuals that really care for others. The pastors, those of you who make the hospital visits, the home care visits, and man, they're so needed. There are those who are the funsters. Those are ones who are the creative, the playful types that I'm like, woohoo, let's have fun. Let's do this. Jesus is awesome, kind of a thing. And then you've got the doers. Those are the people who make things happen. You've got those pastoral leaders. Let's do this. Let's make it happen. I got this. I had a pastor one time that it was my turn to preach one Sunday, and I got the Sundays mixed up. And he goes, "Stephen, you're preaching today, right?" And I was like, no. And then my brain automatically went to planner mode of, okay, I know I could do this.
Yeah,
and
I could write a sermon really fast.
Right. And I've done this training with him, and he noticed, he immediately picked up where I was at my distress pattern. And he goes, "Stephen, I got this. I'll make it happen." Sure enough, man, he got there and preached the sermon. It was great. There are those of you out there that you're a dreamer. You love to imagine, reflect on things, and think of big picture items, and let your mind ruminate on the big picture of things and God's designs. And so that's one of these speaks to who you are more than others.
So you're saying stress, when you get into these stress, especially stress that's not identified or handled, they threaten your wheelhouse here. They threaten who you were created to.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is, whichever one of these you closely align with, I'm about to give you the authentic emotion you have to come to grips with. And so I'm letting give you the chance to kind of say, okay, which one am I? Which one do I think I am? And then we're going to hit the emotion, and then you'll be like, yeah, that's me. Or you may be like, that may not be me, kind of is, but I kind of align with this other one. That's okay. The goal here is really to identify the emotions that you have to come to grips with.
And here's the thing, sign up for the webinar, because you're going to go through your profile and you're going to know exactly who you are. And as you read through your profile, you're going to go, yeah, that's totally,
that's me. I would say 99% of the people that do the profile, when we sit down and talk about it, they're like, "How did you know?" I said, "I didn't know anything. You did this." It's the algorithms behind this. It's not just a check the box and tally the numbers and that's your score. There's a whole algorithm behind this when you're taking the assessment, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this, like when I was reading through mine, and of course my wife was there, and she's over like a bobblehead. She's over there.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's him. All right, let's talk about these emotions, everybody. And we're going to give you some tools well through this. So the 6 emotions to embrace during stress. If you're a protector, it's the fear. You know, you're the one who's trying to look out for people. You're the one who perceives danger that others don't see. And so you put a lot of pressure on yourself to alleviate the dangers for your people as a pastor. So what happens is you're fearful that you're not going to make it through, or you're fearful that a danger is going to get to someone, or you have a certain level of fear. And we're here to say it's okay to be afraid. That is okay. Come to grips with that. The next oh, I think my dog's about to tear up something here.
But yeah, the protector guy. I mean, he's the one that's afraid. What if I miss something? What if somebody slips through the cracks? You know, one of those things. And you just have to, instead of trying to hide that fear and diminish it, face
Right?
it.
Yeah.
Look into it.
Yeah. Hey, did you guys all catch that distress pattern of distraction that hit? Thank you, Matt. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
and
it.
I'm protector. I'm trying to protect you from that moment of distraction, and I'm
That's
trying to
right.
do something. I'm trying to fill the gap so it's
Thank
not
you.
silent. So I'm
Well
diving
done.
into mine as well.
Well played. All right, let's talk about the planner.
We just showed everybody who we are. You know.
I know this is called emotional authenticity, where he got his afraid, and we're going to continue on. um, let's talk about planners. Planners. The thing about it is we like to have our plans in place, and we kind of get sad to a certain degree. I have to come to grips with being sad because my plans aren't working.
Mm.
And I fight sadness. I fight loss because my plans didn't go into place, and so I have to come to grips with being.
Looks like we have some technical difficulties. Stand by, everybody. We'll see if we can get Stephen back online here.
And I'm
There
back.
you are. Talk about technical difficulties, man.
Woo! That's called the dog getting to the plug bar.
Nice.
Ah! Oh my goodness. Oh, golly gee willikers. That's kind of funny. So anyway, hey everybody, thanks for being. See, things did not go as planned. I must be a God joke or something because
You know, God's got a
that
sense of humor because you know it would happen on this episode. I was trying to go into my commercial music, but I couldn't think of anything.
That's funny. All right, everybody, let me get us back to where we were at. I'm so
All right.
sorry.
That's funny.
Oh gosh. You know what? If there's anything about being authentic emotionally, it's right now.
God says, guess what? I'm going to give you a chance to practice this
Oh gosh.
because you talk about every emotional distress pattern. It's like, as soon as you froze, I'm like, well, guys.
Right? Oh my goodness, that's funny.
Yeah, you can't you can't make this stuff up. It just
You can't.
Yeah.
We didn't plan this, but God is surely testing us.
Where were we?
All right, we were talking about. Yes, it's okay to be sad, Stephen.
And Stephen is very sad right now.
Stephen just lost entire control over this whole thing, but that's what makes it fun. By
But he's
golly,
going to lean into that sadness, and he's
I
going to
sure
be okay.
am. By golly, gosh.
How does that make you feel, Stephen?
Right. Oh my goodness. It doesn't make me feel. I choose to feel.
I choose to feel sad right now.
I do, to come to embrace my authentic emotion right now. I lost control. Oh goodness. Well, let's talk about caregivers real quick. I need to do these last four pretty quickly, but you know, the thing about caregivers is they take care of people, and they really they get angry when bad things happen to people that they care about. And the thing is we want you to know it's okay to be angry. They fight that anger. I don't know if I should be angry. I don't know if I should get upset. No, it's okay, because that's righteous anger. You are trying to care for someone. You're getting frustrated. And so that's where we want to come to grips with that anger. Next thing is for the funster. These are the creative ones, those creative, playful types. And the thing is sometimes they have fun, bad things happen, they feel bad, but they don't want to feel bad or guilty. It's, in other words, it's that guilty here is about responsibility. Kind of a thing. I was making fun of something I probably really shouldn't have. I need to take responsibility. So I need to move from sorry, oh, I'm sorry, to no, I feel guilty from a responsible point of view. And so we want you to embrace that guilty feeling, because it's not about guilty, oh, I'm terrible. It's guilty as I'm responsible. Kind of a thing. Then for the doer, those action-oriented individuals, the authentic emotion here is close. In other words, bonding, intimacy. It's being connected with someone else. They'll be like, I don't have time for relationships. I don't want to talk about feelings. What are you talking about? You know, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Moving along. We don't have time for this. We've got to get things done.
Yeah.
And so that's the framework. And we're trying to tell you that actually talking about feelings, the taking time to pay attention to relationships, it's okay to do that. Even though everything within you fights it, we're trying to tell you it's okay. And then for the dreamer, it's the idea of potency. And we talked about this in our permissions. It's okay to be potent. And we're reaffirming that here in the aspect for those who view the world through their mind's eye, who love to process and reflect on things. It's the feeling that this is autonomy. You can move yourself. You don't have to just sit there and stay and ponder about what the pandemic is doing or what needs to be done. You can move yourself without having other people to tell you what to do. You have that capacity. You can get yourself moving. You can ask for help. That's okay. You can make the decisions that need to be made. because during stressful situations, it's that reflection. That's what happens behind the scenes.
Mhm.
So, so this is really kind of the big picture of the emotions. Of these are the emotions that you need to come to grips with. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be sad to that loss. It's okay to be angry, because it's righteous anger, because it's anger based upon really caring for others. It's okay to feel guilty, have that moving into responsibility. It's okay to be close, to have that bonding with others, having those relationships. And then also it's okay to own your own potency, that you can be autonomous, you can make the decisions that need to be made.
Mhm.
So with that being said, Matt, have I missed anything specifically for pastors and how pastors need to connect? Or
No, I think a lot of this is just like I said earlier. We talked about the Sunday face mask. We have this pastor persona. And many times that's built on, well, a lot of times that's built on something that we've seen a pastor that we look up to or something like that. And we want to try to put that out rather than just be ourselves. But especially during stress, you've got to allow yourself this time to just put the mask aside, put that pastoral stuff aside, and just sit with your emotions for a minute, see what they are, because it's when you do that, which is going to lead us to next week in the webinar, then it fuels your growth. It fuels, you'll know what steps to take next. But as long as you're sitting there just eating the stress, lying to yourself, putting that face mask on, keep your head down, because the lie we tell ourselves is, well, I'm doing ministry. Isn't that a good thing? Here's what leads to burnout. If you never become emotionally authentic and you always exist in this arena, you will burn out and you'll quit. So lean into these emotions, because it's out of these. Here's where we talk about the spiritual action plan. It's out of these that you're going to know how to embrace them, how to recover, how to be a better leader. You're going to be a better pastor if you embrace who you are as a person.
Yep. Thank you. Well stated. Well, everybody, we got to wrap up because we've gone a little bit longer because of the little unpredictable incident.
A little recess you took there?
Something like that, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't
leave me here alone.
Right. We do want to remind you of the Pastor's Resiliency webinar in April. That is a paid webinar where you get your own personality profile. You also get your own copy of Dr. Tanner's book. Please go to woundedleadership.com /events.
Absolutely. There's a button there that says pay now, and it puts it in there as a product, but that's how you sign up. And you will get an email that leads you through how to do the profile, and we will get the copy of the book in the mail. Sign up early because you're going to want all this information in front of you as we start. Get your questions ready because we're excited about the guests that are coming. I talked to Steve Ormer yesterday. He's excited about being here.
Excellent.
We're going to bring a lot to the table. This is where you're going to be able to ask your questions and interact. So, guys, we got a few more weeks to sign up. Again, the scholarships are available. So sign up quickly. If you have trouble signing up, email one of us and we'll get that to you. So we want to get some guys together and heal together.
Yep. You can reach me at connect@servantsbydesign.com, or you can reach Matt at thewoundedpastor@gmail.com.
That is it.
thewoundedpastor@gmail.com. Now,
and
just
help us get the word out. Help us share this. If you've run across this in your feed, share it on your social media feeds. Call the pastors that you know. Tell them you'll pay for it. Whatever you got to do, share it with your pastors and get them this resource they're going to need.
Yep. So just so you know, next week, it's going to be next Friday, Running on Empty, how pastors can manage energy. We're going to talk about motivation and energy management to help you. So I'm pumped about that one. So
good.
Yeah, sounds great. All right, everybody. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And God bless. We hopefully see you next week. Thank you so much.
See you next week.